Right, guys, just finished the Hierarchs FTP test. Obviously, Mr. Gareth Timmins, if you don't know, wrote the book Becoming the 0.1%, which I read a couple of years ago, and was lucky enough to speak at an event with him last year or this year.
Yeah, last year, mate.
Just bullied me on the FTP test. Let him introduce himself, what he does, and I can go through some stuff that we've been talking around before this episode.
Yeah, so I'm Gareth, ex-Royal Marine Commando. I've been to uni and done forensic psychology and just looking at PhD research now in gauging atmospherics in hostile environments and how you can then apply that to corporate settings and stuff to look at how we can make better, faster decisions by removing bias under pressure and stuff like that. I'm a published author. I wrote Becoming the 0.1%, which were based on a diary that I did in training, in Royal Marines training, that I wrote the entries for a year, then I added in 34 lessons in psychology, and it's gone on to be a bestseller, and it's kind of opened the door to various other opportunities, of which I'm writing book 2 now, which is called the 0.1% Academy, and that's due out next year. So, yeah, just fascinated on the mind, performance, and just various pitfalls that we can fall into and trying to maintain performance, really.
Yeah, when I came across Gareth's book, guys that know, I suffered a major knee injury playing professional sport, getting kicked by a horse, not from my sport, came back from it. I've always been intrigued in relation to physical performance. Reading Gareth's book, obviously you guys with the assumptions of what a Royal Marine goes through, we always think they're just hard, they're soulless, they've got no fear, they're willing to die at any moment. It's all like this elite level paradox of not being able to achieve. Well, actually, this book, for me, actually gave me a bit of a framework understanding around the sort of the separation between task at hand, vulnerability, and making a choice. And that's what resonated with me, obviously it's around developing the elite level mindset. And something we were talking about before this, just after this FTP test, which we won't go over because fucking sore shit, was around actual mental resilience and about how that terminology from at the moment needs to change, but more to the point of why it needs to change. So I'll let Gareth go over what we were talking around about the sort of the biases around resilience, the positions it should be used in, and the positions that it probably shouldn't, and it should be changed in the terms used.
Yeah, so I think resilience is a kind of a tricky topic, really, and I think that we've absolutely got it wrong, and a lot of it is to do with the social constructive nature of resilience. We value resilience. We value resilient people, and a void of resilience is something that we weirdly can't handle in society. So you always find that people absolutely want to kind of put on this protective cloak of resilience and kind of punch through every single thing that they've got going on in their life. When really resilience is a bit of like an illusionist, a trickster, and it kind of it leads us into cognitive exhaustion and burnout. And we don't always know it until it's kind of too late. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions around the elite mindset around the Royal Marines and them kind of taboo jobs that people can't quite get their head around is that they think that once resilient, you're completely resilient to everything, and day-to-day pulls in life and whatnot just don't really affect you. When really it has a massive kind of it has a massive detrimental impact. But what it does is it kind of it isolates both the bearer that's supplying resilience, but also the person that's trying to attain it. And as a result, you get a massive kind of wedge, really, where people that want to attain it don't feel like they're ready. So they never really go on the journey towards achieving what they're going to achieve. But also, the people that are applying resilience are applying it sometimes because that's what's expected.
Society.
When they're really kind of burnt out, or the need to kind of take the foot off the gas. And I think what I've kind of been working on in book 2 is that we have to get to a point, especially in sport and performance and military kind of context, where we're looking at getting away from resilience and looking at cognitive endurance, because in cognitive endurance it opens the door to knowing where limitations are, and now we can kind of cycle it like we cycle physical endurance, really.
Yeah, like something that came across from my side and it's something that I had when I was a young rugby player. I was that proverbial idiot who would stick his face where everyone's feet were and just think fighting was the only way, and the only way for me to have any bearing on my performance was to be more resilient, where actually the key thing to be resilient in my sort of what I've learned is taking away the facade and actually having that piece of vulnerability, like you're saying, because that allows you to have that piece of choice. And that's something that I got from the first book. It was very much not what I thought it was going to be. Yeah. From it's obvious diary entries, and you're literally reading, you not physically shitting yourself, but physically, mentally going, fucking hell, I've got this, and I am bricking it. After you guys don't know, he's had a knee, a bad knee injury as well. So that's one of the reasons why I was connected with it. And I think that's probably what we the piece that I love to think about is that choice element. And reducing the word resilience is like you said before, about being very military and being very hard. Yeah. But I assume that this piece is more for the everyday corporate athlete, someone who's aspiring as a high achiever, someone who's entrepreneurial. The sort of cognitive endurance gives them the choice to make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, resilience, I think how we kind of look at it at the minute is that resilience is kind of, it's this blanket term that we just place on a pedestal. And we accept resilience. We accept resilience from people. We believe that everybody that's successful are ultimately resilient and so mentally tough. And it has no kind of dispensation really for anything kind of outside that. I mean, resilience really is basically a blanket term that people use to basically kind of to manipulate, really, emotional regulation. That's all it is. If you expose yourself to difficult things constantly, and you kind of extend the base of getting past the self-talk, the practice path, that's where you extend the base of resilience, really. But it has to be applied in sprints, put on and put off, and you've got to know through experience when to do that. Yeah. And I think if you constantly go into life and all other aspects of your life and you think, you know what, I'm going to apply resilience to everything, you'll ultimately end up in burnout and you'll feel a shadow of your former self. And that's what up until very recently, I've applied the blueprint of resilience that I learned in the military. And they kind of got that wrong as well in previous years. But I've applied that kind of blanket of resilience to everything. And it's at some point become detrimental to my well-being.
Sure. Would you, on the term of cognitive endurance, what would be, again, we'll bring it to a bit, I think we can put it into two different contexts. Obviously, we've just gone through the endurance part from a physical standpoint. But from a personal and professional standpoint, it's something that I'm very passionate around because I feel that's the ultimate way of developing a high-performing individual. From a personal standpoint, where would you see the best place to sort of sharpen that cognitive endurance piece? And then from a personal standpoint as well. So, personal and professional, what would you say to somebody who's feeling burnt out, struggling with overwhelm, they're struggling with decision-making, they feel like they're getting swallowed? What would be your first thing to say to give them this sort of opportunity to step back and think, actually, how am I going to go about this a different way? If the person you met was, whether it's a personal or professional realm, of they're feeling burnt out and they provide this, you see this a lot of the time in sort of executive spaces where they will massively push. Yeah. And you see that you said they're useless.
Exactly, yeah.
If you take that example, what's your first sort of interventional piece?
I think you've got to, your immediate intervention is to step back. You've got to take a step back. You've got to analyse just kind of what things are in your immediate that you can kind of change and move. And I think the ultimate kind of emphasis in the moment has to be on self-care. Sure. You've got to put a massive emphasis on self-care, on your own self-care. I mean, there's massive research out there at the minute that it seems really like kind of wokeist and kind of fluffy and all this kind of nonsense. However, there's been clinical trials done, there's been studies done, research in all different countries, so its ecological validity and its generalizability to everybody in society is that we need to seek greater connections to the natural world. And that is, again, not being fluffy, but it's getting out there, away from urban environments, away from computer screens and your office environments and stuff, and just getting back to where our sensual kind of primitive optimization needs to be in order to rejuvenate our attentional resources. They've done studies where they've had people in hospitals, and they've give one patient a view of a brick wall. They've given one patient a view of a field. And the patient at the view of the field healed.
Faster, yeah.
Faster.
There's a huge, there's actually one of those studies that came from where they did salivary cortisol measures on different environments.
Yeah.
And the people that they did it and they were walking in nature reduced their cortisol, I don't know how much, but by way more than anywhere else. So like you said,
it's a massive thing. Like in psychology, in biology or whatever, we just, our sensual resources, they're not attuned yet to this kind of carry on, to being in built-up environments, to having as heads in. I mean, technological advancements have massively just kind of pile-drived us into another state of kind of attentional depravity, really. But yeah, I think immediately, to answer your question, mate, is just you need to step back, you need to prioritise self-care, look at the relationships that are burning you out or being negative, take a step back from them, and just come back. And simplicity is the key.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, last thing, the 0.1% Academy. I'm not sure how much you're allowed to say about it or what you want to say about it. The floor's yours. We obviously, I can't wait to read it.
Yeah.
What are we expecting? When are we expecting it?
Yeah. So again, mate, that's been like a 3 or 4 year project. How did it come about? So it were at the time when it was the Tokyo Olympics, and basically Simone Biles, she'd pulled out at gymnastics because she was saying that she had anxiety around the twisties, like a disorientating kind of sensation that you feel when you're mid-air flying. And Piers Morgan immediately jumped on it and just said, like, oh, she's mentally weak. She knows she's not going to win. He wrote this article on it, and then a load of people jumped on the bandwagon and just thought, like, bloody hell, like, if so many people think that mindset is, like, fixed and not fluid, I need to, like, write about it.
Sure.
So we're in the back of a taxi, and I just immediately got this taxi guy's diary, and in the back I just wrote what I thought were 7 stages of mindset that you hit when you're on when you've got a growth mindset, when you're outside of your comfort zone. And that's what I did, mate, and I sent it off to my literacy agent, and I've been writing that, and it's been a complex and an hard project, but I think I've reached a point like I did with Becoming, where I just thought, you know what, I think we've kind of got something here.
Epic.
Yeah, so that's out next June, and it's getting published in the States as well this time.
How epic.
In October, mate, so that's really exciting.
Game on. Well, mate, thank you so much. Firstly, dragging me around the Battersea district.
Thanks for pushing me, mate.
No. But again, gang, I'll put Gareth's socials underneath. Obviously, he's got a clothing company too, wicked clothing gear, what he's wearing. And definitely read his book if you haven't read it yet. Anyway, thank you very much, gang. Gareth,
Cheers, thank you very
appreciate it,
much.
mate, and I'll catch you soon.
Yeah, cheers, mate.